What is up guys, Andy Forest Team Runner here, and today we're going to be going through this collection of shoes including the Hoka RINCON, the New Balance fuelcell Propel, the Nike Zoom Fly 3 and of course the Nike Pegasus 36 trail shoe, and discussing how they're holding up after 100 miles. So with running shoe prices going up year on year, durability is something I think we all look for in our running shoes, and in particular I've been privileged enough to try a good selection of shoes over the past few months. Not all of them are here, but this is a good selection that I've got now well over 100 miles in, and as I said, durability is key. So today, rather than me doing individual videos for each of these shoes, I just thought I would collectively get them all together and go through with you which ones I think are holding up really well, which ones are maybe not holding up so well, and which ones I think are going to last the duration. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new here, share it with your friends, do all that good stuff, and without further ado, let's dive in. So as you can see, we have a great selection of shoes here, and we're going to go through each of these one by one. The one thing they all have in common, and I'm just going to say it straight off the bat, is there is very, very minimal wear and tear on any of the uppers of these shoes, which is great. From a durability perspective, that's what you want. So obviously we've got a trail shoe here, we have a racing style shoe, and we have a couple of shoes which are more geared up for soaking up the miles. Maybe the RINCON is more for those faster workouts, and the racing, I've used it for races, love it, but the Propel in particular, something that I just use for an everyday type of racer. From a mileage perspective, the RINCON has 139 miles in it. The New Balance fuelcell Propel has 103 miles in it, so that's the one with the least amount of miles. The Zoom Fly 3 has 123 miles in it, and then finally the Pegasus 36 trail shoe has 167 miles in it. So we've got a good selection. We'll start with the RINCON and work our way down. As I said in the beginning, very, very minimal wear on the upper of any of these shoes, and the RINCON is testament to that, bar that one photo that I shared in one of the videos where the thorn went right through the sole of the shoe. Because the RINCON of course has very, very, very minimal outsole rubber on it, these minimalistic shoes in terms of stripping things back with the outsole rubber, you've got to be careful, don't run on any terrain with sharp spiky rocks. That really is going to tear up those style of shoes. However, bar the upper, the shoe is holding up really well. I'm finding the midsole cushioning is just as good as it was when I bought it. If anything, it's wearing in and getting better. I'm really, really enjoying putting the miles and the workouts into this shoe. As you can see, it's a bit muddy. I do run on predominantly trails. Obviously I train a lot on the trails because I've got some beautiful trails around here, and there's nowhere I'd rather be. If I get the choice of trails or roads, I'm always going to choose the trails. So I do like to have shoes that can be quite versatile and I can get out on the trails. All of these shoes are no exception, they've all been out there. So in terms of how the RINCON's holding up, as I said, the midsole is great, very, very muddy. The upper is wearing absolutely perfectly, no signs of wear and tear. It's fading a little bit in terms of colour. That's predominantly because I'm just chucking them through the mud. And interestingly, the one thing where I thought the RINCON would fail drastically, where it has the limited outsole rubber, this thing shed what I would call its first layer of skin. Lots of flakes of the foam came off within the first 50 miles of running in this shoe, and after that it's held up really, really well. It's as if it just needed to shed a layer. I'm sure you guys have seen lots of YouTube reviews on this shoe, and you have seen lots of YouTubers saying that they're worried about the longevity of the shoe, how long it's going to hold up. I've got to say, as I said, we're approaching 150 miles, and after the first 50, after it shed its first layer, it's been absolutely fantastic. There's lots of tread left. The tread pattern's still there, and it's just doing really well. So in terms of everything, I would give this one 100%, like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for the way it's holding up. It's just doing so good. In terms of the Propel, if we move to the Propel, again, very minimal wear and tear on the upper. This, out of all of the shoes, is the one that, in my opinion, is holding up the best. The suede tip around the edge here is just doing great things to protect the front end of the upper, especially as I run on the trails and maybe kick the odd rock here and there. That's doing a great job. Again, it's a little bit muddy, and the rubber outsole is just... if I clean this off, it just would barely look used. Some of the little grooves here are starting to lose their lines in them, but other than that, it's absolutely fantastic. And in terms of, as I said, putting the easy miles into this thing, it's just a dream. Again, after 100 miles, this foam, this fuel cell midsole is just getting better and better. You can see why so many people have given the fuel cell range such rave reviews this year. They're just, it is such a good shoe. I'm absolutely loving it. Again, there's no signs of, as I said, wear and tear around the top, around the ankle area. It's a brilliant shoe. It really is. Nothing more to say on that, to be honest with you. In terms of the Zoom Fly 3, if we move on to that, the shoe that I love to hate, I've done some interesting runs in this shoe. I'm not going to lie. I've done some races in it, lots of hard long run efforts in it. And again, it's holding up really well. I love the midsole material that they use in the Zoom Fly 3. It's just completely... The weight distribution in it is horrific. The front end is just way too heavy. But in terms of wear and tear, the Vapor Weave is doing really well. Again, no signs of wear and tear. The only thing I'd say with the Vapor Weave is it is starting to ruffle up a little bit. I don't know if it stretches over time, but I am finding that the more I wear it, the more looser it's getting in and around the toe box. And as you can see here, the lacing is as tight as it can go around the toe box. And normally I try and have that loose because I have wider feet. I'm trying to get it tighter. It's puckering a little bit here, bending in. So that wasn't there in the beginning so much. It does seem to be appearing now. But as I said, in terms of the midsole and the foam, 130 miles in this thing now, it's just holding up really well. Barely minimal wear and tear on the outsole. Again, just all the grooves are all there. It's doing really well, I've got to say. The 3 out of the 4 shoes so far are holding up really well. If we move on to the Pegasus, the one with the most miles in it, this is the one that I've had the most fun in this year, got to be honest with you. I've enjoyed it as a shoe. When I got it, I was really put off by trail shoes. I thought I'll experiment, I'll go with the Pegasus 36, and I was blown away with this thing. I just absolutely love the midsole material in this thing. I think it's Zoom X foam, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just got that perfect balance of cushioning. And again, considering I've put this thing through its paces in terms of up on the Malvern Hills, through different types of terrain, the terrain test, it's just been absolutely great. And again, holding up really well. The upper is showing no signs of wear and tear. It's just getting a little bit, it's losing its colour a bit, and that's just the dried in mud. 169 miles, 67 miles in this thing, and it's going strong. The Flywire lacing, it's holding up. It's much better than the original Zoom Flywire lacing. And the outsole treads, they're still there. They're still going strong. You'll notice with this thing, it is a bit of a hybrid trail shoe. You can use it on the roads. The lugs in this thing aren't particularly great. In terms of if you want to take it through muddy terrain, it's not going to be a good cross-country shoe. I did do a bit of a terrain test on the channel. The outsole, the ones that run down the outside of the shoe for me, obviously are holding up really well. I do tend to, as I land in this shoe, sort of rock in on my ankles. It is a neutral shoe, and I can get away with running in neutral shoes, but I've got to say that as time wears on, the only negative with this thing now is the support that it did have. The minimal support that it did have seems to have disappeared, because now as I'm running, I'm rocking my ankle in, and I am finding that I'm getting some pain on the outside of my leg down by my shin bone. And that I do find is because as I'm landing, my foot is turning in because the support slowly but surely is losing itself in it. So I'm finding now that I can only do smaller runs in this shoe to make sure that I don't get injured. So that, guys, in terms of durability, is how they're holding up. So final thoughts, which one is holding up the best, which one is deteriorating a little bit quicker than the rest, and which ones do I think and we're going to be able to smash the 300 mile mark in? Well, as you can see, I've swapped around the Rincon and the Propel. If we go from best down to the one deteriorating the worst. I've got to say though, I'm not knocking the Pegasus 36, it's not doing a bad job, just due to the lack of support now as we're moving forward. It's a shoe that I'm having to wear less and be a bit more sparing with. Certainly now, I was really looking forward to running a trail race in this, and I don't think I could run anything more than a 10k in this now without starting to suffer with that side leg pain. So if I go from the best, the Propel is it's holding up incredible. And I was very tempted to leave the Rincon where it was just to give it brownie points for the fact of the lack of outsole rubber it has. Just surprising how well it's doing, but I can't take anything away from the Propel. It just feels as good as it did when I got it out of the box after 103 miles now as it did then. And the Rincon, as I said, with nearly 150 miles in it, again, it's just... These two feel so good, and they're just a pleasure to put on every day. The Zoom Fly 3 I'm just not a particular fan of in general with the shoe as it is, but from this aspect, durability, it's holding up really well. As I said, I just had to dock it some points because I just feel the vapor weave is getting a little bit ruffled around the top there, and as I said, moving down to the Pegasus, just that support element has let it down. In terms of the wear and tear, the lugs are slowly wearing down, but they're not doing horrific at all. So it's a bit unfair for me to say that they're doing badly, because they're not, but these two are just excelling. So there we go, those are my thoughts on these shoes after 100 miles. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you guys think about your shoes. How are they holding up? Let me know in the comments below. And that is it for today. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you hit that like button, share it with your friends, and do consider subscribing to the channel for weekly running content. And as always, I will see you on the next one. Until then.